I'm Wilson Dunn, born in Gastonia, North Carolina. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3.
Hello from Point of Rock Studios. On behalf of 90 over 90, I am Rob Sumner, and it's my pleasure to introduce Arthur Wilson Dunn Jr. Wilson was born on May 11th, 1924, and has lived all of his life in Gaston County. He's retired for many years in the automobile business, and having most recently retired from Tyndall Ford here in Gastonia. He was married for 42 years to Nell Dunn, and together they raised two children, Mary and Arthur. He is the proud grandfather of 8 and great-grandfather of 8 as well. Wilson, thank you for being here this afternoon. I'm looking forward to talking to you.
My pleasure.
Now, I said you lived all your 90 years in Gastonia. That's probably not true. You were in the armed services for a while, weren't you?
Yeah, 2.5 years.
2.5 years in. But other than that, you've
right.
lived here.
That's right.
All right. Now, let's just start at the very beginning. You were born in Gastonia at home?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Do you remember anything about it?
No, it was Union Road. But,
It was Union Road?
but that's about the extent of
Is-
my knowledge of that.
Is that where your family lived at the time?
That's right.
Was that considered country?
Well, it was at that time, but it's not anymore. The property is now on the corner of Union Road and 12th Street.
And is there still a house there? Is your
No,
old home
it's
place there?
gone.
Is it?
Yeah, Jack Rabbit Restaurant is there.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
J Rabs is there. Is that where you
That
grew
was the property. Yeah.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
How long did you live there after you grew up? After you were born?
Well, till I got married.
Really?
Yeah, 48.
Wow, so you stayed there a long time.
That's right.
Now, let's just talk about that. As I recall, there used to be a little school called Armstrong School on Union,
South School.
South School.
It was in the Armstrong district. It was right beside Armstrong Memorial Church, which is now defunct. But the school was next door, where there's a.
You could walk there, couldn't you?
I did.
I think I've kind of gotten ahead of myself. Tell me who was in your family and what your mom and dad did. And
Well, I have an older sister, Margaret Upchurch, and a younger sister, Julia Bing, who lives in Charlotte.
Are they still living?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the three
Margaret's from me at Covenant Village, and Julia lives in Charlotte.
of you. And your mom and dad, what did your dad do for a living?
He was working for an oil company, Pearson's.
And did your mother, was she a housekeeper,
Yeah.
mother, stay-at-home mother?
She did work at Belk some from time to time, but it was not a regular affair.
Now, I usually ask this question because for some reason you strike me as someone who was liked to get out and maybe out and about and was kind of a rounder. Were you a handful when you were a kid?
No, not long. I might have been at times, but
Did
I was cured.
Oh, you were, and how were you cured?
Well, they weren't strict disciplinarians, but they were disciplinarians, you know.
Right.
So we knew what to do, and we knew the consequences. And
Did you ever experience a spanking
oh yeah,
or whipping or whatever you want to call it?
It didn't get that far, but
It didn't.
No,
And you learned from that, is what you're saying.
that's right.
How about your brother and sister? Were they as well
Oh
behaved?
no, they were little angels.
Oh, they were. Well, you were the oldest, right?
Middle.
Middle.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the middle kid always kind of
I don't
got overlooked.
I don't know.
So you grew up on Union Road, which is not far from where we are right now,
That's right.
and you went to South School.
South School.
And then when you got to the upper grades before high school, did you go to high school and
Gastonia High School.
did you know Alice
Yeah,
Reagan?
I knew her.
And were you maybe class behind her?
I think, yeah, that's right.
Maybe or close to the same. So you were there at school at the same
Yeah.
time. Did you want to get out and work?
Well, I did. I worked at service stations and things like that.
Where did you work?
Well, various ones. Bill Davis had a station on the corner of Franklin and Chester. And one of the rock Crockett boys had one up on the corner of Broad and Franklin. So I, from time to time, worked in those. After
As
school.
it's like
After school.
after
and
school. Would you
weekend.
pump gas?
Oh yeah.
Did you work on cars?
Well, not too. More washed them and did
Right, you
repair
would.
work.
Right, but you would basically take care of the customers, and those days, people came in to get gas. You had to serve them.
Oh yeah, you had to fill up the radiator and you had to pump up the tires and clean the windshields and all that.
Yeah, they didn't pump their own gas either, did they?
No, we had to do it.
And so that kind of got you through high school in terms of
Yeah, well,
jobs.
Carried newspapers also.
You did for the Gazette,
Observer.
or the Charlotte Observer.
I had
And was that a morning or afternoon paper?
that morning.
So what was that like?
We had to get up about 4 o'clock in the morning and go up to a service station, which is still there on the corner of Main and York, and that was the drop-off place for the papers.
Was it a daily?
Yeah,
You did
7
every-
days.
7 days a week.
That's right.
So you would get up, go get the newspaper. How would you get there? Your dad take you?
Bicycle.
Ride your bike, pick up the papers,
Deliver 'em.
deliver them,
Come home, eat breakfast, go to school.
go to school. And that started about 4 o'clock a.m. every morning.
That's right.
And then you get out of school, then you'd go to work maybe at a filling station or
Well, maybe didn't do too much on weekdays, mostly
weekends.
weekends. Yeah.
Now, you said you went to Gastonia High School, and I want to talk just a minute about what your recollections are of downtown Gastonia, your earliest recollections, and then obviously as you got older, you know, able to get about. Did you have a car? Did you buy a car?
Oh yeah, I always had a car.
What was your first car?
Model A4.
Model A Ford.
It wasn't a good car, but it's. My first decent car was a '32 Chevrolet.
And why do you say it was your first decent car?
Well, these others, you had to patch them, and you couldn't go anywhere much in them. They weren't dependable.
Oh, I see.
They were just cast off from somewhere we picked up. I remember paying $35 for a car one time.
And what kind of car was
It
that?
was an old Ford. So you see, it wasn't much of a car. It couldn't have been.
Did you know how to work on it at that time?
I knew enough about to keep it going.
Right. So if it broke down, you could open the hood up and peer in.
Yeah, right. Do something.
But anyway, I guess Gastonia was the downtown was where the action was.
That's right.
Oh, after high school or when school was over, would you come downtown? Would you?
Well, sometimes I did, but I didn't. At that time, we didn't have a car, and
Your family didn't?
well, yeah, but I didn't.
Oh, I see.
So you had to walk to town, hang out a while, and walk all the way home.
Who would you hang out with?
Oh, I don't know, a bunch of guys, John Bryson, John Fasu, and
They were some
Bill
of your friends.
Fasu, yeah, Theodore Shelton, numerous classmates, you know.
And I guess Mr. Ashley was the principal, right? And as I recall, I think I remember my dad telling me that he was, even though he didn't go to school there, he went to Belmont Abbey, but he said that Mr. Ashley was a pretty strict disciplinarian.
He was.
He ran a tight ship.
They done.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy your high school time? Was it something you look back with
Well,
fondness?
I wasn't a good student, so I didn't do too good, but it was tolerable.
Good, not good because you didn't try, or
Well, I guess that was it, yeah. I hate to admit that, but I guess that was it.
and did you have other dreams and aspirations? Did you think that you were going to do something else,
No.
or didn't need it, or just
didn't need it.
and did you learn otherwise somewhere along the line?
I guess so, I made it. I didn't finish Gastonia High. I went to Belmont Abbey and finished over there.
You did the high school there,
Yeah.
and was that why? Why did you do that?
Mr. Ashley and I didn't agree on a lot of things.
Oh, you didn't? I see. So you tangled with Mr. Ashley a little
Oh, yeah.
bit?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you did? Well, tell me about that. I'd like to hear
That's
that.
enough. You don't need no more of that.
I believe I need to know more about
You're
that.
not
So,
going to.
all right. Well, so let's just say that you and Mr. Ashley came to an agreement that you would
That's right.
attend Belmont Belmont Abbey, and you finished your career on there. What about when did you graduate? 44, 45, somewhere in there.
42.
42.
Wasn't that right, Alice?
I think so.
Yeah.
So when you got out, obviously World War II had started,
Yeah.
and I always like to. You may not remember what you were doing on Pearl Harbor Day, but I always like to ask someone if they
I do.
remember what happened and
I do.
how they remember hearing about it. Tell me about that.
Well, I was working at a service station Sunday afternoon. Bill Davis on the corner of Franklin, Chester. And they had a little old squawky radio, and it came on, and we got the news right there.
Did you close down or just keep working?
It was done, didn't know what to do.
And I bet you a lot of people were stunned and didn't know what to do.
It was continued what we were doing because they didn't know anything else.
And so you were maybe a junior or senior in high school.
Something like that, probably.
Did you see your life changing as a result of that? Did you think about that?
Well, of course, you always begin to think about joining the Army or something like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I never did anything about it. We just thought of it.
Now, when you got out and you graduated from high school the following year, you were, I guess, you were the middle child. Had your oldest brother gone to school, gone to college?
Sister.
Oldest sister, I'm sorry.
Yeah, she went to Sacred Heart.
She did.
Yeah.
And what did you decide you were going to do at that time?
Well, I just getting a job and going to work was all I was thinking about.
And you did that. Where'd you go to work?
Before the war, where did I work? Oh, I worked at Firestone Mill and places like that.
So Gaston was still a textile town. I
That's
guess
right.
all the mills were running full blast.
You couldn't get a good job because a guy looked at you and he knew you were temporary help. You wasn't gonna be here long.
Because
No.
so you got a letter from. You remember when you got a letter from the president asking you telling you to go.
Well, it give me a date to visit the draft board, and the details worked out from there.
Oh, okay. And so obviously you left your job, and where did you go?
Well, no, I didn't leave the job.
I mean, eventually.
Well, in the Army, I just worked at the various mills, Firestone and all, till I was drafted.
And when would that have been? Do you remember? 42, 43?
43. April 43.
And where did they send you?
Well, the first day we went down to Camp Crawford to Spartanburg. Got an examination and all this, that, and the other. Went back and stayed home a week, and we went from there to Fort Bragg. Stayed a couple of weeks. Got uniforms and various things like that, more examinations. I went from there to Miami Beach for basic training.
And you were in the United States Army at that time, is that
Army
right?
Air Force.
Army Air Force.
That's right. And did basic training there for about 6 weeks or so. Went from there to Biloxi, Mississippi for Keesler Field for aircraft and engine mechanic school. I went from there to San Diego to Consolidated Aircraft Company to higher grade school.
So they were teaching you how to work on
That's right.
airplane motors?
Yeah, the old airplane. I got a good education when I was in the Army. But
And when San Diego, when you finished that, where did they ship
well,
you?
we went to various replacement depots. I was in Kearns, Utah for a while. Don't recall exactly the dates on all that, but you stay a couple of weeks there, and they'd send you to I went to Greensboro and stayed a couple of weeks, and finally went to somewhere in Virginia, Hampton Roads,
Mm-hmm.
and shipped out from there to Naples, Italy. Stayed there a couple of weeks, went to Bari across the continent, came back and went to Naples, Sardinia. Stayed in Sardinia for about
Is this
6 months.
This is obviously before D-Day.
No, this is during the war.
I know, but was it before D-Day, before we invaded France, or when you were in Italy, or do you recall? Or about that
yeah,
time?
no. I was overseas before D-Day.
Right.
I was in Sardinia.
But we're working. The troops were working their way up the Italian
That's
boot.
right. I didn't come in D-Day at all.
Right.
Had nothing to do with that. We did send bombers up there though, It was a busy day.
Was it? You knew something was going on, I
Oh
guess.
yeah, we knew.
And
Well,
so,
we had had a training early on invasion of southern France,
hmm
and that's, of course, that was a learning process for D-Day. You know,
right.
we went in about Naples, I think it was, somewhere down in there.
So you stayed in Sardinia until you shipped back to the stateside?
No. I went from Sardinia to Corsica. Stayed there a while. Went from there into Dijon, France. That's where I spent the bitter winter of 45 and 46. It's cold. And the war, we went on into Lyon, stayed there, and the war ended. So I went to Germany and stayed 2 or 3 weeks and came on home.
Did you spend most of your time in the war working around the aircraft?
I was an aircraft engine mechanic. I was not a combat soldier.
When they came in, you checked them out, made sure they could fly.
That was my responsibility.
That's a heavy responsibility.
Well, you can worry about it sometimes, sure.
I bet you did.
You see half a dozen come back and you notice your ship's not in that crowd.
Yeah.
You get worried pretty fast.
Did you get to know some of the pilots and the people who were flying?
Yeah. Some of them guys you'd see in the morning and watch them well, you never see them again.
Yeah. That's part of the war effort, I guess.
That's right. It was.
Did you, when you came back, did you have any trouble kind of adjusting back to life in America?
I don't think so.
You don't?
No.
It must have, looking back on it, must seem, or does it seem like it was a long time ago or a different lifetime?
Oh, it's forever ago. Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was not an easy life.
It sounds like it shaped you in some way, though. There was an important part of your life.
Well, I was responsible for my airplane, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's. I'm sure they're glad that you did feel responsible for your airplane.
You know, when you see it's not coming back, you get worried.
Mm-hmm.
Did I do something wrong, or did I neglect something, or
Mm-hmm.
you can't have them think about stuff. Fortunately, the only incident that happened to me, he landed in a friendly field one day, but getting low on gas.
Mm-hmm. Not your fault.
No, he just ran it too rich, or he did something that burned up all his gas.
Now, you got back to the United States and you were trained as an engine mechanic.
Couldn't find a job.
You couldn't
I tried for Eastern Airlines.
try to get a job at Eastern
well,
Airlines?
I did get a job. I got a referral to go down to Miami. And I got to thinking about that, and I made a phone call, and I decided I wasn't going down there. I didn't want to go. I'd been gone from home long enough, and I liked it there.
Did your parents still alive at that time?
Oh, yeah.
And so they still lived in Gastonia.
Yeah.
And you decided that you were going to make your life here in Gastonia.
That's right.
Did you notice anything different about Gastonia after the war? I guess during the war, there was probably a lot of shortages, and you couldn't buy tires, and you couldn't buy cars. But I guess things geared up pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't good. It wasn't good merchandise.
Was this a busy place after the war?
Right. I remember my mama bought me a pair of pajamas, and they were pretty things. I wore them, laundered, and it washed all the starch out of them. There wasn't nothing but so that's the kind of stuff you got, you know.
Right. Now, when did you meet Mrs. Dunn?
About 46.
Which after the war, was she a Gastonia native as well?
She was working in Gastonia, yeah.
And y'all.
No, she lived up in the Hardin area, up north of Dallas.
How did you meet her? Or did you know her from your older days?
Pat Lindley introduced us.
As just kind of a blind date thing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And where'd y'all go on your first date?
I don't know.
You don't?
We went and got an ice cream or a soda.
Is that what okay, something fancy.
Yeah, what's he gonna do back there?
And it must have worked out pretty well for you.
Well, yeah, we dated a good little while and got married in 48.
And stayed married over 40 years, 42 years.
42.
and you raised two fine children, and lived in downtown, well, what's now known as Yorkchester, for part of that time. Did you
Yeah.
move there after you
Yeah.
got married?
We lived on Willow Street. We had a small house there, 2-bedroom, and we outgrew that, and somehow or another I found out about this house on 5th Street. We got it from Hugh McCarver. He was handling it for the bank.
Mm-hmm. And you during your, after the war, 46 to your retirement, you stayed in the automobile business.
Well, not really.
You
Not
didn't?
all the time. I opened up a service station and ran it for a good little while.
Oh, you did?
Down on the corner of 2nd and Marietta.
That must have been hard work.
Long hours, yeah, it was.
Hard to get good people to work for you,
That's
too.
right.
I suspect you demanded a lot out of your people, that they be hardworking as well.
Well, I think they did a good job.
They did.
But
So you worked for Tyndall. Who else did you work for through the years?
started out with J.K. Lewis
Buddy Lewis at Ford.
on 2nd Avenue. You know
Okay.
where the place was there.
Yes, yes.
Stayed there till he built that one out on Franklin, Wilson Boulevard.
Right, and then that's where Tyndall bought it from him.
That's right.
And Buddy Lewis was I guess he was in World War II, but also a retired baseball player.
Oh, yeah, he's a great guy.
And you enjoyed working for him.
I sure did.
Was he a good boss?
Yeah, but he didn't expect to get the job done. But, yeah, he was a good fellow.
He was.
Yeah. I visited with him a lot of times after he retired, you know.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
And now, someone told me, well, actually I know this to be true, that into your 80s that you would continue to cut people's grass and
Oh, yeah, I had a,
do work outdoors. Now, you're not doing that anymore.
had a regular business. No,
Yeah. Well,
I eats out of that.
why did you do that? I mean, was it
I had to do something.
is that a way of kind of filling your time after you
Yeah.
retire?
I had a regular route, 5 days a week
And you did that until how old?
until I went to Covenant Village. When was that? In 1990, I reckon.
Were you 80 years old still cutting grass?
A little bit. No. We had to work on that a little bit.
All right. Well, that's all right. It didn't make any difference.
I was in my 70s.
70s. Okay.
Yeah, in the 80s.
Well, that's no.
80s, I
You
quit.
You quit. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you get around so well now. You're sharp as a tack. You're feisty. You say what's on your mind. And
Unfortunate.
well, a lot of people admire that. But I'm wondering, do you? And this is kind of one of my stock questions, but I think it's a good one to ask. Do you have any advice for anybody who wants to live a good long life and good, and it sounds like you've had a happy full life too, but anything you can share with me?
I don't have any real advice. And staying busy is my thing. I just like to have something to do.
And you still kind of,
I still work it till noontime.
you do,
That's right.
and that's something you still try to do every day at age 90, stay
do.
busy.
I do.
You still drive, obviously,
Yeah.
and I guess you haul a lot of people around at Covenant Village.
Some of them. Alice and I go have something to do just about every day. Some of them poor people that never get out of the building. That worries me, you know. I couldn't.
Right.
When my time comes like that, I'm through. Let's move on.
Pull the shade.
That's right.
Well, I want to thank you for being here. I thank you for all your honest answers and putting up with my questions. And we'll see you on the internet. Thank you, Wilson.